Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Kate and I love all things makeup, skincare, beauty, and fun. Today we are going to be talking about my favorite, and in my opinion, the best rainbow palettes in my collection. It is Pride Month, and so I wanted to take a moment to talk about some palettes, none of which are new, but that are inspiring for this month in particular to create beautiful, colorful rainbow looks. If you're interested in this type of content, please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. I would love it so much if you would subscribe to my channel down below. And without any further ado, let's go. Okay, so as I mentioned, it is Pride Month, and so I thought, what better time to discuss all of my favorite rainbow themed palettes than right now. I will happily link some resources to be able to support the LGBTQIA community down below. If you have other resources that you think would be helpful for people to know about, please comment them down below. I feel like this Pride Month is supposed to be about celebrating who we are, about our individuality, about being our authentic selves, and somehow there are people out there making it so that this month is, in my personal opinion, it's scarier than in Pride Months past. And it makes me very sad. I'm not going to get too deep into it because I will go off on a tangent, and that's not what we're here for. But I digress. I wanted to play with some makeup, talk about some makeup that I love, and let you know that I am here for you and that there are resources available to us that need them. So without any further ado, we're going to jump right into it. The first one I want to talk about is this one by Lunar Beauty. First of all, I love Manny. I know there was like a period of time there where like things were a little rocky for him, and I kind of took a break from him, but for years at this point, I have been a lover of his brand. This palette honestly feels slightly off-brand for Lunar Beauty just because it really is like so focused around space and the planets. But I'm happy that this palette exists, and I'm also happy that I own it. This is the Life is a Drag facelift. I never got the original, and I think that's okay because I think that owning this one works just as well, to be honest. It sounds like he improved some of the formulas, and I think this palette is especially unique because it definitely has that rainbow section, but then it also has all of these beautiful neutral shades. So it's one of those where you can do a really bold rainbow look, or you can do pops of color with neutrals. I also love that a lot of these are matte with like a few special metallic shades. I just think this is a really unique piece in my makeup collection and in the makeup community as a whole, and it's one of those that if you don't own it, I think you won't regret owning it. If you picked it up, if you're thinking about grabbing it, it's one of those I don't think you would regret grabbing because it is a super versatile palette, and I think it meets the needs of a lot of different check boxes that we might have as we're doing our makeup. So this one is honestly probably underappreciated in my collection just because I do have a lot more than I need. However, I still love it. I wanted to mention it. Life's a Drag facelift, 10 out of 10. Love it. From Nomad Cosmetics, I feel like so many of theirs could like potentially be looked at as a rainbow palette, but I wanted to mention this one specifically. This is their Bosque Nuboso de Monteverde. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, and I'm so sorry. But let's get to the meat of the situation. Let's get to the meat. So this one is not traditional in the way that it's set up exactly like a rainbow. That being said, it literally has all of the colors of the rainbow in here for us to love and enjoy. Nomad Cosmetics is an indie brand who happens to make one of my favorite formulas. I just find them to be really consistently pigmented, easy to blend, easy to work with, and I can create really stunning, beautiful eye looks, in my opinion, from each of their palettes that I own. I own a decent amount of them, but this one I felt like really hit the mark as far as being a rainbow palette because we have our red shades. I think this is pulling a little bit more pink on camera, but in person, both this one and this one have that like very red tone to it. We have the orange, yellow, several greens, a couple of blues, pink, purple. I just feel like this hits all of those milestones that we're looking for, and is set up in a way and has additional supporting shades that allows us to create really inspiring, beautiful makeup looks. I just Let me just swatch a couple of these for you. They're truly stunning. Truly stunning. If you haven't tried Nomad Cosmetics, this is your friendly reminder to do so. One swatch, folks, one swatch. I love them. I love this palette, and I think this is a fabulous time of year to embrace our colorful rainbow palettes. From Odin's Eye, we have their Planet Spirit palette. This is in collaboration with Batty Bean, aka Betty Jean, here on YouTube and on all social media platforms. I really was like, okay, I have to try to figure out how I can find a rainbow palette in my Odin's Eye collection. And this one almost slipped my mind just because I forget sometimes that Odin's Eye made this palette. Because Odin's Eye, I feel like they do color so well and so beautifully. However, when I think of them, rainbow palettes didn't necessarily come to mind. So when I was going through my palettes and I remembered that I had this one, I feel like this hits the mark. Again, I feel like you have all of those staple rainbow colors, and Odin's Eye is another indie brand that makes one of my favorite formulas of all time. This palette, I honestly feel like when the launch happened, probably got the least amount of love, which is just wild to me because it's such a beautiful, colorful palette. I can see how somebody who loves neutrals might not lean towards this one as much just because there's no safe space, in my opinion. As far as like, oh, this is neutral with a pop of color. Like, this is like straight pops of color. That being said, that's why I love it. So this one, again, let me just swatch a couple of these for you. The formula is delicious. The pigment is out of this world. I love Odin's Eye, and this palette I just feel like is really special. And they really did something with this. So those are just 3 swatches, and it's just, you know, one swirl and done. Absolutely stunning. I love this palette. If you have it, this is your reminder to take it out and show it some love because it's stunning. The formula is perfect. The color story works so well together. Betty Jean really did a phenomenal job curating this palette and putting it together. And again, Odin's Eye just makes one of the best formulas in the entire world. So if you have this palette and you're not showing it love, this is your sign. If you're on the fence about owning this palette, this is your sign. I only have one rainbow palette from ColourPop, despite the fact that I know that they have multiples. I have this one. This is their Fade into Hue palette, and this is like when you think of a rainbow palette, this is just very typically that. I actually really appreciate all the different finishes in here, and I also really appreciate that it's in chronological order and there's different rows of each color so that you get a variety of different ways that you can play with this palette. ColourPop is one of those brands for me that's tried and true. The price point is certainly more manageable than some of the higher end palettes that I have in my collection, but the formula is also across the board rather consistent. This one does have a couple of pressed glitters in here, so if you are somebody that does not like pressed glitter, maybe this one isn't for you. That being said, I know that ColourPop does have an all matte version of this palette. I honestly am not somebody that loves pressed glitter a lot, primarily because taking it off is nothing short of a pain in the caboose. But I don't mind ColourPop's pressed glitter formula, and if I am in a real jazzy mood and I really want to go all out and have a phenomenal over-the-top eye look, I will play with their pressed glitters, and I think their formula is pretty decent as far as pressed glitters go. As far as their shimmers and mattes go, very consistent. They work really well together, they blend really well together, and they're easy to manipulate. This palette checks off all of the rainbow boxes, and honestly, just the setup of this palette makes me really happy. I love rainbows. Pride Month aside, I love rainbows, but especially during the month of June, I love rainbows. They bring me such joy, and that goes for this palette as well. Blend Bunny Cosmetics is another one of those that has several rainbow palettes, in my opinion. I do not have their original palette, and I do not have, golly, I cannot remember the name of it. I do want to grab it. It's their rainbow palette that has the white and the black and shimmers in it, because I'm pretty confident they have an all matte rainbow palette. I don't have either of those, but I do have the Surge palette, and this is kind of a different take, in my opinion, on the rainbow palette, where they've replaced red with pink. And personally, red is a color that I enjoy playing with, but it's not my favorite. Pink, on the contrary, I love playing with. Blend Bunny has one of the absolute best formulas. They are so pigmented, but also so easy to blend. This one definitely made the list because it's a unique take, in my opinion, on the rainbow, where it has these like absolutely stunning neons right here, mixed with these more grungy tones, some pastels, and then of course these magnificent shimmers. I just think that Blend Bunny Cosmetics does such a beautiful job with their eyeshadows and being so intentional and thoughtful about how they put them together, that I think if maybe the Surge palette isn't for you, but you have a different rendition of a rainbow palette from Blend Bunny, this is your reminder to take it out and play with it, because the shades are honestly so special. Let me just swatch some of these neons for you, because they really are. They're so special. I love neons, especially in the summertime, especially during Pride Month. I love this palette so much. I feel like they knocked it out of the park with this. Look at those. I did have to double swipe to make them as intense as they are, but I think they're so special. I think they're so beautiful. The Surge palette is honestly one of my favorite palettes in my entire collection. If I had to get rid of it, I would be devastated. I just love this palette. This is kind of an unassuming pick, but I wanted to include it in here anyways. This is the Pastel palette by Natasha Denona. Now, I know that I feel like pastel season for me, in my mind, is like very much for spring. However, realistically, we can wear pastels whenever we darn well want to. And this one, again, hits the markers as far as like color stories and hitting the reds, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pinks. So I wanted to include it for that reason, because I feel like it's one of those palettes that for me, and the way that I play with makeup, is almost kind of easy to overlook, because again, when I think of pastels, I think of like a very short window of time, and it's in the springtime around Easter. But this is our reminder that the Pastel palette by Natasha Denona, not only did we pay nearly $70 for it, but it's a beautiful color story. It's a rainbow color story, and consequently, there are endless options. Not only does it hit the markers as far as the actual colors of the rainbow, but it comes out with some beautiful supporting colors to be able to create some really beautiful pastel eye looks. 10 out of 10. I love Natasha Denona, and the Pastel palette is an underrated gem. My next two palettes are both by Glamlight. I've talked about this one before, but I wanted to bring it up again. I wanted to bring it up again for the same reason that I wanted to bring up the Natasha Denona one again. This is their Ice Cream Dream palette. First of all, the packaging, 10 out of 10. So adorable. But also the color story, 10 out of 10. So adorable. It hits all of those markers as far as true colors of the rainbow, but offers so many supporting colors that are absolutely stunning. I think, again, for me, in my collection, this one gets overlooked because it's a more pastel leaning palette. And again, I think of Easter when I think of pastels. Like, I need to stop thinking that way, but that's where I've been. But I do feel like Glamlight's quality is some of the best. They're another indie brand. Indie brand, admittedly, is like my favorite as far as most products go that I can find in the indie realm. I feel like the people that are doing it are, of course, they're like a mom and pop shop, and they're truly passionate about it. And so things are done, in my opinion, and in my experience, with more thought and care. And Glamlight is one of those where that certainly reigns true. Again, they have beautiful pigmented shadows that I just think are so fun and effortless to work with, and I love this palette. It's, I think, one of the deterrents for me too, is that it is a bigger palette. And so for me, the way that my makeup storage is, I need to maybe think of a different way that I can store it, because it does get in the way of being able to access it as readily as I would some others. But like, look at those swatches. Just stunning. Such a good formula. Glamlight, honestly, if you're watching, which I suspect you're not, watching, I am hoping that this year they will kind of go back to creating original pieces that are not licensed. That being said, I've bought almost all of their licensed launches. I love Glamlight, one of my favorite brands, but I truly do miss when they had these types of food launches. I'm not necessarily saying that I want them to go back to launching only food themed palettes. I mean, I love the themes. I think they're super cute, but I'm hoping to see from Glamlight some more palettes that are not licensed this year, because I think we're missing out on more beautiful gems like this, and I just feel like they have come such a long way from an already great formula that we, the people, want to see more of these original color stories that has such an impeccable, beautiful formula. The next palette I want to talk about is a big kahuna. I am willing to bet that you guys have not thought about this palette in quite some time, and I'll be honest, neither have I, because again, it's humongous, and so the way that like makeup storage for me works is that the bigger palettes have to go in a bottom drawer that's deeper and in the back. So this is definitely one that I need to like keep out for the month of June because I really want to get some more love into this palette. But this is their cake palette, and I just think it is so cute. The fact that the package is an oven and then the palette itself is a cake is just absolutely to die for. And then this is what the color story looks like. Again, it has those staple rainbow colors, and I just feel like this one is even more curated, I dare say, than the ice cream palette, just because the shades, or the pans are a little bit bigger and there's less of a variety, but still different finishes and formulas to create a really dynamic eye look. I also appreciate that there's more depth in here as far as like some of these tones go, so that you can create depth in some of our eye looks. And again, Glamlight has one of the better shimmer formulas on the market. I'll be honest, this is one of their first launches that I owned, and I feel like since this launch, their formula has only gotten better. But that's based on an already great formula. If you have this hiding in your archives, this is your reminder. You have it hiding in your archives. Bring it out and play with it. Show it some love. It's Pride Month. Let's have fun. Let's have fun with it. We're not going to let absolute Looney Tunes take away all the fun of this month. The last palette I want to talk about is also a pastel palette, and it's also an indie palette. I've also already talked about this year. However, I want to bring light to it again. This is by Give Me Glow, and this is their Pastel Dreams palette. Another pastel option. However, you can't tell me that this isn't a beautiful palette. They also have really remarkable shimmer shades. I will say their matte formula is not necessarily my favorite in the way that it's definitely a thinner formula, and it's not something that's going to go on stark, not just because this is a pastel palette, but their formula in general is just a little bit more thin than some of my favorite formulas. That being said, I do think this palette is special, and I do think that it has its place in my collection, and I enjoy playing with it every time I do, which begs the question, why don't I play with it more? But those are some of the swatches from this. It really is such a beautiful, vibrant palette. It hits all of those traditional rainbow markers, but it's a little bit of a different take on it because it has those pastels. I will say with any of these pastel palettes that are rainbow inspired, I like to use an eye base that is going to erase any of the natural discoloring of my eyes and create a really light natural base, because I find that the colors certainly pop more when I have that type of a base. So I have one by Glamlight that I really enjoy. It's like their icing. And then I have one by P. Louise. Either of those I can attest I do enjoy as eye bases, not only to help the longevity of my eyeshadow, but to allow colors, pastel or otherwise, to really pop. Thank you guys so much for being here today with me. Please comment down below some of your favorite rainbow palettes and palettes that maybe I need to try out. I love rainbow themed anything, Pride Month especially, but all throughout the year. I love all the colors of the rainbow. I love rainbow themed things. So please comment down below if there are any palettes that I am missing. Please let me know what you are most looking forward to playing with as far as colorful eyeshadow for the remainder of our Pride Month. I am a safe person. I pride myself in being a safe person. I am a member of this community, and I see you, I hear you, and I will be here for you if that is helpful for you. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content, and as always, please stay happy, stay healthy, and stay blessed now more than ever, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.